a lot better, or is this team's just forgotten to ward camps and really find... You need an anti-Evelynn plan, but there's ways with Evelynn now being a distinct factor in the LCK, in the LMS, and now here, to play against Evelynn. You feel like, give it a couple of weeks, teams will remember, okay, there is a way to make Evelynn accountable.
Yeah, I mean, as always in the first early weeks, teams are still figuring out what to do, but we are in the champ slate now for game number 2 as IG gonna ban away the Scion and the Yogurt once again, so targeted over at Aluka and Mystic respectively. Azir, the final ban there, up against Shie, Gragas, Kalista, the same bans again for World Elite. So far, we're gonna have a very similar looking draft, it feels like.
I mean, World Elite just don't want to get in a position where they're picking those hyper carry roles, but more simply just not have this weird Rek'Sai top Evelynn jungle situation. Maybe just hold the jungle pick to the second rotation. I feel like last pick junglers maybe a bit much, but given how spirit-centric World Elite are as a team, it's worth considering.
I mean, I think later in the draft is certainly a good recommendation, as Cassiopeia was the last ban there for World Elite, so I believe the same 6 bans as game number 1, which means IG, if they want it, can go straight back to the Alistar first pick, but Zataya's been hovering Lulu for quite a while, bopping between a couple different champions, but we're back to ambiguous picks. It's Rek'Sai first.
Nothing ambiguous about the Nidalee that's being hovered over. That's the sort of flavor of pick we want to see from Spirit. Not necessarily going to have to opt into picking this Nidalee this early. You don't feel like Kakao's going to blind pick that jungle matchup if you have to guess. World Elite and Aluka in particular looking to continue on the Hecarim train. Remember, gave away First Blood very early in a manner reminiscent of Dyrus in the TSM vs SKT game. Need to be a bit more on the ball when you're against a strong pressure jungler, even a pressure top laner like Hecarim.
Yeah, you can see Hecarim should be the pick here, but Sejuani is locked in actually by Spirit, so going to go back to more of a control, more team fight jungler, I guess, coming through. High impact for sure, but can maybe get bullied here by Kakao, especially if he just wants to take the Rek'Sai.
It's just a surprise to see them basically indicate their top lane and jungle matchups off the bat. There's no ambiguity about these picks, and we've already seen that top lane Rek'Sai is an ambiguous pick. So it's surprising to see them lock in these predictable champions, because now IG have all the information and all the options to work against World Elite.
And they're going to keep fairly ambiguous potentially here as well. I can see the Alistar being hovered again.
I can hear
had a great looking game
with the Nocturne being
considered. I think he's flying on a plane right now, but he can still hear it all the way up there. As Kakao is hovering the Nocturne. I like that you mentioned Black Cleaver being a Nocturne item, but they do fade away from it just at the last second. It's actually going to be Rek'Sai jungle, you have to think, because Na and Alistar are the second and third picks.
I feel like if Black Cleaver stays as strong as it is, we will eventually see a Nocturne with Black Cleaver. I am not willing to commit on that champion having Smite though, because mid lane Nocturne, of course, was a very old counter pick to Twisted Fate. So maybe that will be where we finally see the Black Cleaver Nocturne. But we don't know if we'll see it this game as they go for the Na versus Hecarim. We mentioned this matchup. Very strong matchup for Na. And again, another strong laning matchup for IG in the top lane.
And I think that's important for Zatai. He's shown a lot of promise actually when he can bully the enemy laner. We've seen his Karthus, we've seen his Fizz do crazy things in those particular matchups. But World Elite going to go for a bit more teamfight potential. They're sort of already locked it in, I feel like, with their first 2 picks, but they'll complement it a bit more with Janna and Sivir.
And we mentioned the Sivir and the fact that Sivir would have really strengthened their comp they had in game 1. The Kog'Maw was maybe just a bite too many when it came to looking into their late game cherry pie. In this situation, that wasn't really a phrase, but I said it anyway.
I enjoyed it.
In this case, you've got the wave clear coming through, so now suddenly Kassadin is a viable last pick coming through, or a hyper carry in general. You don't need wave clear in the mid lane as much as you did before, because you have the Sivir who, if you can rotate well enough, if you get the advantage in the early game and you make the enemy rotations predictable, Sivir happy to hoover up those minions.
Yep, I like the last pick mid laner here for World Elite that they'll be picking as their final pick, but IG got a couple more picks to consider. Rookie will go back to Orianna, but Kid, an old favorite for him. It was Ezreal in game 1, why not Vayne in game 2?
And we've seen a lot of Vayne recently over in Korea. I don't know if I like it. It hasn't been winning a lot. Alistair Vayne, a lot of kill pressure in lane, but often needs to lane swap just because the level 1's very painful. If you don't get the all-in, you just struggle in a lot of laning matchups. It's not an ideal matchup against Sivir, and now Janna is going to be the matchup. But if they opt into 2v2, which has been the consistent trend with Alistair Vayne, it can go well, but it can go oh so wrong as well.
I think even more than last game, they'd love a lane swap here for the Vayne Alistar. Split this lane up, give Vayne a safe spot to farm. Let Kitties just go and roam with the Alistar, but it is the Vladimir last pick here for World Elite, so Shia going to go back on his, I believe, undefeated champion.
one of those amusing situations where because World Elite have that Smite Hecarim, they're actually quite happy if they end up getting lanes swapped on because, of course, the Hecarim's going to get so much more jungle follow. It's going to avoid that tough Gnar matchup and get through the laning phase much more safely. So I don't think World Elite or IG really have a massive advantage either way in terms of the lane swap or the 2v2 matchup. There's kind of advantages and disadvantages both ways.
Yeah, we're going to go through the matchups now as well. So Ty in the top side, going to have a perfectly serviceable, if not good matchup against Aluka's Hecarim.
I mean, in terms of 1v1, if we do see that matchup, it's great for Gnar. Can happily build either the Frozen Mallet, which started to see popularity against Hecarim, or maybe just the Black Cleaver with the strength of that item on this patch, and just try and boss around the horse.
See there as well, Sejuani for Spirit with Rek'Sai there for Kakao's rookie. Back in Orianna for another matchup, but a very different one this time in Vladimir.
That was the last pick, was the Vladimir to go into mid. It's just going to be a farm fest coming through. In the late game, it's always a question as to who's stronger. I'd probably give the advantage to Vladimir, but still, you need those double escape summoners usually to get those consistent AoEs onto the backline.
Yeah, Kitty's and Conan, of course, the supports again. Pretty similar stuff. Kitty's actually the same champion from game one as he will pick up his Alistar. And Conan going to go back to a bit more defensive support now. Take away the Janna.
I mean, you say that Janna is a defensive spot, and in a lot of matchups it is, but just adding extra flat AD onto a Sivir, going to be a lot of lane control that Vayne and Alistar will struggle to match. Only one ranged auto attacker being the fairly short ranged Vayne, but of course has similar auto attack range to Sivir. You just don't have anywhere near the same pushing options that a Sivir
No,
does.
and again, that lane swap has to be crucial here for these two teams. We've seen the power of Alistar roaming across different regions. Vayne almost feels like a requirement that you need to get that 1v1 or 1v0 lane. So how deep are IG willing to go to get this swap? That's my question.
I feel like OMG and Split 1 of the LPL was the only team to really perfect the Vayne strategy, which was get Uzi into that 1v0, ensure that his excellent freezing mechanics meant that he could first back for Blade the Ruined King. And look, if you spawned with Blade the Ruined King, Vayne would be one of the best champions in the game. But that early laning matchup, so many different machinations in terms of lane swaps and just avoiding a 2v2 that will be painful if they have to opt into it.
Well, we'll see how the Vayne gets done as IG and World Elite going to go head-to-head once more. And welcome back into a pause as we were about to start our second game here, IG versus World Elite. Invictus Gaming, currently a game up here as rookie, looking very happy. They're probably looking forward to his seeing lesson later this evening.
Absolutely. I love the little memes they've got through on the player pictures. It's amazing. If you missed that, rewind back the VOD if you're on YouTube, easy to find, and just look at some of those pictures. The one for rookie is just amazing.
I'm sure you can browse through Twitter as well, but yeah, even Aluka one kind of having in stitches as well during the break. That was good stuff for Spirit. Looking pretty serious as per usual. I have to say, Spirit, he fluctuates pretty heavily between, smiling, laughing, chatting with his team, and just is very confident, very focused deaths there.
Well, I mean, it was the best of 5 against TSM, where at IEM you saw Spirit, really rallying the troops, building them up. But best of 5 is very different to best of 2. They need a win in this situation just to get anything out of the matchup. Starting the season with 0 points would be a bit reminiscent of what was a really poor first half of the season for World Elite. In the LPL Split 1, remember, they went 0-11 or more at the start of that season. It was the same matchup. It was World Elite versus Invictus Gaming at the start of the LPL spring season, and it was 2-0 IG that day, and it's already 1-0 IG today.
Yeah, looking to see if they can do it again. I think World Elite, pretty painful memories of that first split, you have to think, so don't want to repeat that here. It would be hilarious to me if once again World Elite IG would, of course, go 1-1 in their first opening match, but it's important to get momentum in both these teams coming back in. Even with relatively similar rosters, it's a new season. We definitely noticed with World Elite's playoff run in spring that every single point matters here in the LPL. So, they might be looking now thinking, whatever, it's just 2 games of 40 or something that they have to play, but it certainly all matters coming down to the end of it, and both these teams want to get off on the right start.
I feel like World Elite's drafting phase this time a lot stronger. We don't have the 3 losing lane matchups, at least in terms of lane control. You've got the Sivir Janna, who are going to be very comfortable against the Alistar Vayne if we do see that 2v2 eventuate. Vladimir versus Orianna, probably slight advantage to Orianna early, but Vladimir's going to be happily just farming away, staying on maybe slightly lower health values, trying to use those spells to get a bit of wave clear through, but still be mostly happy. And if we do see that eventual 2v1, just to avoid the dodge the lane for Alistar Vayne, Hecarim with Smite going to happily jungle a power jungle through. So it's definitely not the same champion select problems that we saw emerge for Game 1 for World of
And important to note in that top lane in particular, it is Nah here for Zatai instead. Great champion, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of good Nah players in the LPL, and Zatai is among them, I have to say. Maybe not quite the top tier, but...
He's not Korra.
No, he's not Korra, but he's not bad, that's for sure. But, of course, the crucial thing about Nah, very popular. Be curious to see if the Black Cleaver does come out here again, but he does not take Smite.
I mean, you got two options. That's the kind of the fun things that Frozen Mallet we saw because of just how it interacts with the Hecarim passive. It's still a decent laning choice, but Black Cleaver is probably the ultimate laning choice for a Nah now, just because Nah's, especially in that ranged form, is all about that very annoying auto-attack harass, and you're throwing out the Q. I mean, you stack up that Black Cleaver super fast between the Hyper procs and the Q coming through. Any instance of physical damage, shredding that 5% of the armor. So it's going to be very strong. And then you have the 20% CDR, so suddenly your spells, and specifically your escape, is on a much shorter cooldown. Very hard to itemize CDR for these no-mana champions like Nah, for these tanks, and it just fits so well. So it's probably going to be the split push focus. That's the thing you can say about both Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver. It's what I tried to say about the Black Cleaver Rek'Sai when they tried to opt into a dragon fight. In a true dragon fight where you're expecting your top lane to initiate and be tanky, Black Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, not a lot of team fight statistics, just the health coming through in that case. But when you're in terms of talking about the laning phase, you can really style up on a Hecarim with either Black Cleaver or the Frozen Mallet on Nah.
Yeah, we saw a lot of mallets, I think, in the end of the last spring split as well. Black Cleaver just feels disgusting to me, to be honest. I mean, Boomerang's already on a pretty short cooldown. I forgot that it was actually physical damage, not auto-attack based, the Black Cleaver proc. So you're already getting, you know, auto Boomerang.
So Boomerang does damage, it procs the Hyper, and then
procs
suddenly you're a dead horse.
Yeah, and you're just speeding up. Boomerang's always off cooldown for some reason, and yeah, Hecarim's going to die. And we've seen it. No flash on these Hecarims, just the ultimate and the E to get them away. Kakao did a good job of first blooding Aluka, which I think for Aluka, unfortunately, must be, again, some horrible flashbacks from the first early stages of World Elite split, but Kakao's shown a lot of presence as pathing. I think Spirits, for me, might be the big question on the other side. What does he do this game? He's got a bit more proactivity on his jungler this time.
He's got Sejuani, which is slightly different. I wouldn't say she's more proactive than an Evelynn. You'd probably get in the face in the level 2, 3, sorry, the Nunu in the previous game. So maybe in terms of ganking, has a few more options. Clearlove especially showed some very good jungle pathing with that Sejuani on occasion, but Clearlove also struggled on the Sejuani sometimes. I feel like it's feast or famine in the early game. The late game's pretty regular. You throw out that ultimate, usually hit it on a couple of people, and you feel good about your percentage health damage that scales. So many different scalings with Cinderhulk and, of course, the Northern Winds passive coming through. But in general, early game Sejuani is always a bit of a question mark, so we'll have to really take stock of whether Spirit can get things going this game like he couldn't on the Nunu.
Yeah, just a reminder, we do still have a pause. Of course, you can see the players still looking very focused. They have a game to play. They're sort of gearing themselves up. They are allowed to talk about strategy, but everyone's staying pretty quiet, actually.
Surprising to see, I guess. I mean, coming back to the Black Cleaver Nah, one of the kind of small things I love about it, Pastry Time, is that for people that have been playing Nah since release, you finish that Black Cleaver and it feels like it's old Nah again, because of course, with that 20% CDR, the big changes to Nah were around the fact that he didn't have as much of the CDR refresh mechanic coming through if you caught the Boomerang. They changed it so that it scaled over levels to about level 16. Now when you have Black Cleaver with 20% CDR, it's old now. You catch it, it's available again. You just can't get away from the Nah if they keep hitting that skill shot.
Yeah, that was sort of my worry here. Is it seems like we are going to be onto the Rift here soon-ish, soon enough. Not yet. Sorry to spoil it.
You got too excited there.
I'm sorry.
You came in strong, and then it just wasn't.
Well, it'll be up fairly soon as we might be available here between these two teams, but still looking strong. I mean, Nah, Black Cleaver Nah, as I said, not something I've personally experienced yet, but I'm sure people in our high-level Chinese solo queue have, and I think it sounds awful. It sounds awful to play against. It is awful.
Get in solo queue. Queue up against the Nah. You'll find the Black Cleaver.
I don't want this to happen to me now.
Stick to Lux then in the mid lane.
Yeah, I don't think the Black Cleaver Nah in the mid lane's really going to get it going, but we'll see. I mean, Zatai, again, someone that does like to bully people in those top lanes. On the Rek'Sai, I have to say, did a great job aggressively trading with Aluka.
And that was the thing. It looked like he wasn't getting much done. Then the late game, once that CDR really got rolling, I believe he had 30% with the Spirit Visage as well. He was just everywhere. That was the key factor, is that you had so much global presence. Okay, it's not going to be global presence, but there's realistic 1v1 kill pressure. Black Cleaver Nah against the Hecarim.
Well, we'll see what Black Cleaver Nah can get down. So it seems like we're going to hop onto the Rift. And welcome onto the roof for our second game between Invictus Gaming and a World Elite, an age-old Chinese League of Legends matchup. And Invictus Gaming currently find themselves up 1-0.
And it looks like, just from the fact that Kid and Kitties are around this Krug camp, that we're going to see the 2v2 matchup. That's been the surprising factor, Page Time, as we look into the crowd.
That is a sweet sign. I have no idea what's going on.
Why solo kill?
I don't know what's going on, but it seems great here. You're right, we are going to be in a 2v2. The Krugs were started there by Kitties and Kid. I believe the Grump was taken away by Mystic and Conan. Yes, you can see their experience there sort of betraying that for them here, at least for us as we can see. But classically an aggressive matchup here, but I don't expect Kid and Kitties, level 2 cheese aside, to get a big foothold in this matchup. It's
just hilarious that we see this Vayne Alistar, and every single duo has been opting into 2v2 with it and losing. So I don't know what they know about the matchup. Obviously, level 2, if you can get that condemn against a wall with the big Alistar headbutt pulverize, sure, maybe there's some gimmicky kill pressure, but it's not a great lane matchup for Vayne, and Vayne is certainly not a 2v2 champion, at least in this meta.
Yeah, especially with the Sivir and the Janna that you mentioned in there as well. It's been a long time since Condemn has been that good that you can go into these 2v2s, but Rookie Vashir is going to be our mid lane matchup. Vladimir doing decently as Rookie, taking quite a lot of damage to arrest control early of the matchup, hitting level 2 first. But once again, Rookie right up towards the enemy turret, pushing the wave in and harassing you. That sounds like the Rookie we've seen last season.
And it's certainly not Orianna versus Cassidy in terms of how bad a matchup it is for Jia, but it's not a great one either. You have to consider that it's not until Jia gets a Hextech Revolver and specifically levels into Tides of Blood before he's ever able to counter-push the wave. It feels like, to some degree, he has to use the transfusion on the enemy champion just for any sort of lane presence. Otherwise, he's going to get chipped away under his turret by Rookie. So it's going to be still a painful laning phase, and there's not a lot of kill pressure when Spirit comes in pre-level 6 ether.
Yeah, you can see Zatanna in his lane. He'll be 1v1 against Aluka, which he'll be happy about as well. We'll have to keep track of where they're going with the build, but Zatai actually early on with a Doran's Blade there, so wanting to be aggressive in his matchup.
And there's kind of two schools of thoughts. I think you go with the Doran Blade just because, again, you're basically a ranged Teemo when it comes to that ranged form. But you could go Ruby Crystal because, of course, you build so well as the back cleaver. Out of double Ruby Crystal, you can turn that into Phage Kindle Gem very happily. So I think you go for the Doran Blade, in specifically a laning counter matchup like Hecarim versus Gnar. But you do have that flexibility in some situations. Just pick up a Ruby Crystal quite happily.
Yeah, Kakao actually looking to take both Scuttle Crab, so great pathing here for Kakao. Spirit might find himself slightly behind. Spirit's actually invaded for the walls, but was spotted by some Tremor Sense there for Kakao, so he has a decent idea of what's going on. But as it looks right now, it's a bit hilarious. They're kind of vertically trading the other junglers' jungle camps.
I think the big reality is, remember, this is, of course, Jungle Rek'Sai this time, has very strong games with the Flash on Burrow. In terms of the laning matchups, Gnar going to beat Hecarim early. Orianna's going to have control over Vladimir. So in this top side of the map in particular, you can't even really look to fight for this Scuttle Crab because every factor is working against you if you're World Elite.
Yeah, and it's the bottom lane that I think Spirit has to look for here. We mentioned it already. Not a stellar looking matchup here for Kid, but he's actually ahead in CS here so far. So playing pretty far forward in this lane, getting aggressive. It's paying off so far for Kid.
And it's one of those matchups where you feel like Mystic has to take control of it at a point and then not lose it because there's always kill pressure if you overextend as a Vayne. And maybe it's just a situation where the World Elite are actually afraid of the jungle pressure from Kakao.
Yeah, quite possibly as Kid gets some good harass down as Conan forced to shield himself there just to wipe off some of the Silver Bolt's burst. And Kid and Kitty's probably the scariest thing is they're pushing lane, even going in aggressive as Conan going to take a couple trades there as well. Mystic, though, goes in aggressive as a result and really punishes Vayne.
It's a pretty equal trade, but yeah, just a slight advantage coming through from Mystic. I have to come back to the fact that it's probably the lack of vision. You look down this bottom side of the map, no wards whatsoever. It's awkward to seed lane control, but Spirit's going in.
Yeah, Spirit, good Q there, forcing Rookie to flash. He's low on mana as well. Does have a cleanse, but that won't help you too much against the knockup portion of Arctic Assault as Aluka going to come in there and just get a bit of trade damage down. He's actually ahead now as this wave comes in. So Ty struggling a little there. Oh, down the bottom, Kid getting low. There might be first blood, and Mystic almost gets it done, but Kakao going to find himself down here as well. And we said it might be too aggressive for Invictus Gaming's dual lane. I think they just found out why.
And that's the thing, is without the wards, don't know which situation is Spirit.
Spirit going in, gets condemned into the wall, though, does get first blooded, and Spirit, that was too much.
Absolutely, and that's after a game of frustration, not being able to get anything done as Nunu. He thought, okay, gonna go and get the sneaky kill, flash over a wall, pick up a kill and get out. doesn't get the kill, gives away the first blood awkwardly to Rek'Sai. At least it's not the Vayne, you have to say, but still, it's a bad precedent to set in what is potentially a matchup where if Vayne gets that Blade of the Ruin King, doesn't get harassed, doesn't lose a turret, there is kill pressure there for Alistair Vayne.
Yeah, Kid's gone back, actually got a build toward a Cutlass, so does have much more potential here. Mystic gonna get knocked up there. Kakao's gonna go for a revisit. Good spell shield and Tornado might keep him just safe enough, but Kakao does good damage, is forced to back away after smiting Mystic, though Boomerang Blade gonna come in. Mystic flashes forward for the kill, and the aggression paying off for the Korean AD carry, but Achilles flashes back in, and Mystic reads him like a book, just jukes back.
Mystic played that exchange so well, Pastry Time. The crucial factor held onto the spell shield to actually spell shield the Unburrowed. That was the spell that needed to be spell shielded, because you saw, once that was down, they were awkwardly walking towards Sivir with no more CC. Of course, Alistair's cooldowns, Pulverize was what, 7-8 seconds before it was going to be available again. They had no options, and they just donate a free kill to Sivir.
Yeah, Mystic goes back, gets a BF sword done there as well. So all of a sudden, the bottom lane had a lot of junglers going to overreach for a couple of juicy looking kills, and both times they have been punished.
I mean, look, one of them picked up a kill out of the trade, but Sivir picks up the answering kill. So overall, first blood excluded, you give the advantage World Elite.
You have to think so. As we see Xie, level 7 now on the Vladimir, does have a Doran shield and his Hextech Revolver, so starting to get a bit more traction in this lane.
Surprising, the rookie's been playing pretty passive. He's actually behind in CS in this matchup. Xie's starting to get that lower cooldown transfusion, working towards the 4-second cooldown he'll have it at level 9, but with no range pushing options, I guess the fact that Kakao has spent so much time in the bottom lane has caused Rookie to just play that much safer.
Yeah, as we move back into the top lane there as well as Zatai, doing us proud for at least the first part of the item, because that is a phase that is already completed. Kiddy's good knock up there, going to find himself taking a little bit too much damage. Kid now coming in, Spirit not level 6, but joining into the bottom side as well, so we might have even more pressure in the bottom side now.
It's surprising to see them go for this second game, but they must have communicated the fact that there are no wards here whatsoever. Spirit's only really good for a bit of burst damage, and you can awkwardly see that the final hour is available for Vayne, so should be able to juke out the damage. But with no summoner spells up, it's a risk they're willing to take.
I mean, might just take a look out of Clear Loves here and just move into the lane for some turret pressure. Actually having a roam from Conan, going to get a little bit of vision around the Dragon Pit as Xie level 8 now. No blue buff required, of course. Rookie does have his, but starting to really pressure Rookie, who's still just behind in CS.
Look, Rookie will palm up. Both of these mid laners keeping on comparable terms. Just surprising to see. You expected Vladimir on, say, a 10 CS deficit. So the fact that Vladimir's ahead, it's slight bonus to Xie, but in the long run of things, probably not a significant factor.
Nice ward there from Conan as well, popping it in. Gonna see Kiddy's coming through, especially if they're pushing the wave in. They'll get good vision behind him. Most importantly, spot out Kakao when he comes for another gank.
Exactly, and you know that's coming before too long. He's so good at pathing on this Rek'Sai. We saw in that series against Vici Gaming, so many turret dives, so many unique and innovative spots to use that Unburrow to come through. In this situation, been punished a little bit though, so just kind of tail between his legs, farming in the jungle.
Not surprised, he's an old school Nocturne player, but he knows some creative ways to gank through some lanes as Rookie. Getting a bit more control back, we'll get now ahead slightly in CS as well, and you can see Xie, he's comfortable. I mean, it's 2 late game champions in a row. You have to think this one a bit more, bit easier, a bit safer to farm on. And his Vladimir, it's looked good so far when we've seen it. And Tatai trying to punish Aluka, but even he's just fine, although about 15 CS behind.
3-0 Vladimir, as we mentioned. Pink ward's been put down because they know Sejuani's in the area. They want to open up potential initiation. IG is split between wanting to clear out this ward and realizing this is a suspicious place to put down a pink.
It's a dangerous place to put a ward, and that's an excellent pink ward to have in the bottom lane as well. It just gives you good vision. It gives you control over your side of the lane, but most importantly, especially in this matchup, spots the stupid Vayne.
It was aggressively plopped down in vision, so you know someone else is around to take advantage of it. Sejuani uses that Q to get over into the brush. Don't know if she's actually spotted because that model is pretty big, but no, she wasn't spotted, so she was looking just to wait out that cooldown, then look for the engage, but has to back away.
Yeah, Rookie going to get on top of the Raptors. The Xie is actually trying to take them away, but Kakao will join in. Should be able to collect them here as Mystic continuing to farm away in the bottom side there as well. And again, protecting this ward, going to keep moving through. Spirit looking in the mid lane for a lane gank this time around. It's going to help Xie push out the wave back towards Rookie, but Kakao also in the area. Could be fireworks now in the mid.
I'm not sure that Spirit's going to want to opt into a 2v2 against Rek'Sai. I think the big thing for Spirit is cause pressure where Rek'Sai isn't, because Rek'Sai's so strong in those early to mid game skirmishes. Spirit, there's always the potential of a bit of burst damage, but it's so much more of a struggle. So try and cause pressure in other lanes. You can see from the health bars here, the trades between Spirit and Cacao not going great for Spirit.
Yeah, very sneaky Cacao, forcing Spirit away, just gets away on a sliver of health, but Cacao starting to get some tunnels down, applying more pressure, and I like what he's doing here. You sort of alluded to it already, but he's basically just tracking Spirit as best he can as Shie uses his ulti there onto Rookie, but Rookie just shakes it off.
Yeah, he's just looking for harass with that ultimate. I think that was a please don't all in me, I'm going to use the ultimate situation. Kept onto the pool though, so Cow can't cause any pressure. But remember, you saw that flashing health bar. A Cinder Hulk Rek'Sai is able to do those sort of trades. It's a full tank trade, still so landslide in the advantage of Rek'Sai in the mid game. That's why you saw so much pressure from Spirit down, but not interested in these 2v2s.
And this was one of the things that we identified about Sejuani is that, sure, she's tanky in the late game with the Cinderhawk, does good damage as well with the health scaling on Northern Winds, but that takes time to get to. You need to farm to that spot. You don't just sort of wake up with tank stats. Your base stats are actually significantly weaker than some of the other tank junglers. That's
why we were surprised when there was, say, Lee Sin versus Sejuani matchups where Lee Sin wouldn't try and get in the face around level 3, 4. Not a lot of junglers can still go into the jungle of a Sejuani at level 7 and be able to have the same sort of kill pressure or harass pressure. But Rek'Sai is just so strong in the early to mid game that you can still extend that window where you can just go piggy hunting.
And that's exactly what he's been doing. Spirit's been tracked by Cacao all game long, and both these junglers play very similarly. They look happiest when they're in their opponent's jungle, and so far in the series actually, and especially in the early stages of this game, that's been all Cacao so far.
I mean, these matchups we've been talking about, Vladimir competitive against Orianna, Vayne though awkwardly very competitive against this Sivir. I believe at this CS value might actually be able to back and get that Blade of the Ruin thing or be about 100, 200 gold away. Yeah, 2100 gold, so can confidently pick that up. And then suddenly in a long lane, both of these champions have those speed up mechanics, the fleet of foot, and of course Vayne's passive as well. When you use the Blade though, use it at the right time. Significant kill pressure on the Sivir.
Yeah, Blade's even got a little better, I believe, as well on the patch. So, I mean, I can see why it's a popular looking pick, especially for a kid who's a long-time Vayne player here as well. I mean, Mystic also close to his Infinity Edge with about 1800 gold banked up when we last saw him. So both these AD carries going to look to get their first big ticket purchase and then probably look for a dragon fight, because once again, we've got a very slow first dragon here.
Surprising to see. You'd imagine the team with Rek'Sai on the side would be the one trying to opt into that early dragon. They should have had lane control mid. Haven't really had that, but it's been at least equalized. But when you pick such a weak bottom lane, you're not often in a position where the enemy's recalled first. When you're Vayne against a Sivir, it's usually going to be Vayne trying to push in a wave and then desperately get back to turret before it's exploded by the ricochet damage. You're not often in a position where you can wait for the enemy to back first and then take the dragon. There's been no free dragons this game.
Spirit getting onto Cacaldo, but Zatai kiting around. Actually good ulti there coming onto Aluka. Damage going to move through as the knockup comes in. Ulti's a little short, but does get himself to safety, and we actually missed it through all the other lanes. That Black Cleaver is already done for Zatai.
The Black Cleaver damage is so big. She is worried about a turret. I've used the ult early.
Yeah, Conan's in here as well. Does get a tornado, but Rookie just guides his way out of it. Still clears out the waves. Top tower's going to go down here for IG, and all of a sudden, a slow-ish game here as Cacao takes away the red buff as well. World Elite lose everything on the top half of the map.
And this is the thing. You've got a losing top lane matchup, and Spirit just has to watch, sadly, as his buffs are taken away. He tried the aggressive move, gave away first blood, and now doesn't even have control of his own jungle. You have to feel like, once again, it's going to need to be a late-game scenario for World Elite to really get rolling, because specifically the bottom lane, the one lane they've chosen a winning matchup, is going even at best.
Yeah, and Rookie's now taking control of the mid lane matchup. I saw constantly poking Shie out with his level 11 blue buff Orianna that's got 150 CS almost here at the 15-minute mark. Rookie, again, we talked about him being a big bully laner, loves to 1v1 people. He's been left alone for these first two games, and it shows just how good he is in these situations.
And the big worry for Jie, the reason why he's had to use those reactive ultimates, is that he needs to keep Tides of Blood stacked up this whole time to have any sort of AoE wave clear. So of course it's doing, you know, chipping away 80, 100 health you take every time you keep that 4 stack going. Suddenly, Rookie walks up to you and you're worried about a turret dive. You're worried about the cacaos going all over your jungle. So just trying to stay competitive in the mid lane by keeping up those Tides of Blood. He's been punished. He's been caught between two strategies and just loses his turret. It's a very smart movement from IG. Getting control of his topside jungle has actually won them the mid lane matchup.
Yeah, Rek'Sai just has so much implied pressure. You know, back in the day, it would have been Cacao just physically ganking Rookie's lane to get him ahead, but just the implied pressure so far is enough to make World Elite play pretty scared around the mid side. Dragon's going to go to them as well. It's quite late here, but Cacao, he doesn't mind. I think I said that it's a matchup of two junglers between these two teams, and they both love to dictate pace. Right now, Kakao has dictated the entire time.
And look, moving to the LPL, you definitely say Spirit had the better spring split compared to Kakao. But previous to that, Kakao was seen as perhaps the strongest jungler in the world, specifically in terms of pathing, was probably the best at jungle pathing in the history of League of Legends. So the fact that he took so long to warm up in the spring split was a surprise. But he's come out really strong, in at least in terms of the jungle matchup in this first game.
And make no mistake, you know, there are great players on IG here. So with the roster finally settled, Zatai's coming to his own. Rookie's always been a strong player, has been allowed to shine. Even Kid, the ever-consistent duo lane there with his partner Kitty, had, you know, some performances. Now back on his vein, you know, feels comfortable playing some of his old-school champions that have a bit more of a carry feel to them. No matter how IG play, this is Kakao's team, and it shows.
And it's one of those things where, look, this game is a snapshot. I'm not going to say now, okay, now Kakao is a much better jungler than Spirit. Because, I mean, World Leader made it hard for Spirit, specifically with this drafting. In general, he's had multiple losing lanes to deal with. All lane matchups haven't gone as expected, and he's been punished in a lot of ways. Speaking of punishment, very nice trade coming through from Kid, but when you've got these difficult matchups, when you're not picking an assertive champion like Rek'Sai, when you're on Sejuani duty, there's only so much you can do if you're Spirit.
We'll have to see how it shakes out. Xie in the top side trying to get a gank down onto Nawa. That is a tall order now with the Giant Spark completed. No boots, by the way, for Zatai, who's just never left the top lane, it feels like. 50 CS ahead.
There's just so much kill pressure as well. You noted before. You saw that trade when he just got a fresh Black Cleaver. You have to remember, of course, the ultimate, the Nara ultimate does physical damage, 30% shred between all the auto attacks into a massive burst of damage. You're seeing it here. Aluka basically has to use that ultimate defensively most of the time. Is Orianna going to rotate first?
Maybe. That was a sick hop, by the way, for Zatai, who just gets him with the last fragment of house there as well. Not quite enough to kill Aluka. Rookie, he was waiting for it, but doesn't quite get there. It's Kakao, with his ultimate down, actually gets to the mid lane and starts pushing it.
Yeah, Rookie probably a bit sad he didn't go for the Ghost Flash approach. He would have been in position to get a turret dive down. It was actually just feigning aggression was Aluka. He didn't have anyone come out. Was surprised to see him play so aggressive. It worked out in the end. He lived, but this top lane matchup's not going happy days for Aluka.
No, and that was the matchup we expected to go wrong. And you said neutral in the bottom lane, not what you want with a Vayne lane. Mystic got that one kill, but he has not been able to get control back of the lane with Spirit. Maybe just with that first blood sort of holding all the momentum in mid lane as well. Xie has been competitive. He's actually caught back up in CS now as well, but Rookie is just dictating to him time and time again. And if IG's games go the way where Rookie dictates the mid lane and Kakao dictates the rest, IG are going to have a really strong season.
But the crazy thing is that Kid's been dictating the bottom lane to somebody. That was never supposed to be a possibility. Remember, this is Janna Sivir. You might think, okay, Janna, passive lane. But Janna's going to throw on AD. You should be able to push it in. They're respecting Kakao so much that they're not even looking to push in, despite the fact they had the Queen of Disengage if they ever look to be punished. But they've been on the back foot, and it's given Kid a free laning phase as Vayne, which you never want to say in a cast because it's going to be happy times for IG.
It's great times for IG and real bad times for World Elite. Spirit did smite away his blue buff, so manages to protect that somewhat. Actually, he's probably the best candidate for it, so I do like the takeaway there. But Kid continuing to push in, starting to really turn on the aggression. And Alistair Vayne, not so hot at level 1, level 11 and level 9 with a Blade of the Ruined King done. They'll happily take a 2v2 now.
That's why you see Sejuani has to put so much effort into bottom. Agree with you. Keep the blue onto Sejuani. Transition maybe late game with the lack of wave clear, put it onto Sivir for a bit more wave clear. But for now, just get the Sejuani going, because certainly the ganks and the jungle pressures worked extensively against Spirit. Picking up the experience even just from a big camp is necessary to keep him a relevant threat this game.
Yes, Zatai's coming in. Rookie's actually joined in already, and she has spotted twice now by wards trying to rotate in. The red buff going to be the next target. No smite here for Spirit's going to give that over to Kakao, and again, Spirit just losing so much here as Rookie just starting to leave his lane and still staying ahead in CS.
The gold lead's actually quite big given this present patch. 3.8k, it's the 2 turrets, but it's just been all the extra CS, all the extra jungle camps. 74 to 54 is this CS advantage just for the Rek'Sai, and then in the all the other lanes, you're either competitive or way ahead.
Yeah, and Zatai didn't quite get a chance to point it out yet. I do like the Black Cleaver that's coming through as Mystic actually pops his ulti. Rookie's the pick that they want here. Spirit trying to find an ultimate, but Rookie just uses dissonance and walks away.
But will World Elite be able to take any sort of structure from this? They haven't got the outer turrets. Very healthy. The Mystic with free time should be a lot of turret damage.
Yeah, good damage there, but Kakao and Zatai coming through. Mystic gets tagged by a couple of slows there. Spirit's going to have to try and peel it off. A good tornado from Conan will make it happen. Xie pops his ghost. He's trying to peel away and keep the team safe. Aluka forced to run back as well. And Invictus Gaming pop a full few cooldowns and force World Elite back to their mid turret.
Zatai is really good in his management of the Naba. Just wasn't an obvious engage option there. Even with flash available and a bounce into the creeps, would have been too optimistic to look for a kill. So he's going to go up to top, keep up the split push. Dragon's 50 seconds away. Given the tie of this game, it should go to IG.
And the fact that Zatai is kept in this lane for as long as he have with his Black Cleaver is just crazy to me, because he's going for a Frozen Mallet as well.
That's really crazy. The thing about Black Cleaver and Frozen Mallet, that the trade-off you make is it's great in the 1v1, average to bad in the team fight. I mean, he's going to have a lot of health, that's for sure.
He is. I mean, maybe need some resist to support a bit to tie.
You get Mega Gnar resist, that's still something. But sure. then you do have kind of a window there. The interesting thing about that is that sometimes people think of too binarily. Speaking of binary, yeah. Kid's going aggressive.
Kid is going aggressive. Conan will find him though. Kid, once they go in, Kid is looks for the combo, just missing there onto Mystic, but Kid turning it around. Exhaust down as well. Kills him through the Monsoon and the Exhaust a little late there, and Kid, aggression pays off.
But that's what happens when you have a free farm Vayne. Is you're surprised at the trade damage. There were audible gasps in the studio here because you don't see Vayne doing that sort of damage at 22 minutes because they don't normally have 216 CS.
Yeah, Phantom Dancer almost completed as well on top of that blade, and Zatai even teleporting down, going to get more pressure in. Blue buff is coming back up, I believe, in Rookie. Apparently he wants it.
But World Elite have nothing going for them. Sivir doesn't have any. It's just dying in lane under a turret. Vladimir's been pressured out by Orianna. We don't even need to talk about top lane. That was always going to be the case between Gnar and Hecarim. And Spirit's nothing he can do on the Sejuani. We were expecting him to go greedy. He thought about the Nidalee, but Sejuani Judy, I don't think it's going to lead to a victory for World Elite.
Not quite yet, and if you just heard that sound, that was IG taking their second Dragon. Xie a little too deep now. Does use his pull Shockwave. Very nicely timed, but Xie with a nice flash to get himself to safety.
Look, it's another flash down. Suddenly it's going to be that much harder for Xie to get damage onto the back line. IG taking over both sides of the jungle. It'd be surprised. Wow.
Yeah, Phantom Nets are done as Rookie eats an ultimate, I believe. It cleanses out of it. Very good summoner spell against this lineup. They're still going in. Rookie, great flash there as Kakao gets a double knockup and takes some damage, but the shield will keep him safe. Kiddies will rotate back in to protect this turret. Zatai's even here as well. So is Vayne back with the Phantom Dancer and some double longswords. I don't know if World Elite can pressure this.
Well, look, this is a better scenario than Zatai up top with literally 2 laning items. They cannot deal with split push. No, it's impossible. He's so tanky, does so much damage, and can apply a consistent slow. But in a team fight, given how strong the rest of the team is, they might still go in for it.
You can see Xie, he does not want to eat a single auto attack, and he does. Kiddies find him as well. So Tiger going to go in. Good tornado from Conan, but a flash 3-man ulti will find him. Kid's going to get the first kill. Conan gets in onto Jana. That's a double kill now as well, coming in onto Kid. And the Vayne is being unleashed by Invictus Gaming.
You can see that Zatai has been practicing the Gnar in the offseason. He was good at the laning, but was never good at maintaining the rage bar, specifically having the Gnar bar up for team fights. It's what I was alluding to, is that you do get those resists in Mega Gnar form, but if you can force fights around Mega Gnar, if he's exhausted, suddenly you only have health. But if you're going to manage it like that, free objectives like Baron should be the result.
Nice stuff from Zatai. Absolutely. Baron's going to go down. We talked about the ridiculous Baron damage in the last game. Blood of the Ruin King Vayne with a Phantom Dancer already at the 24-minute mark. Baron just melts there under the pressure.
Yeah, the hyper damage and just the AD coming through from both Frozen Mallet and Black Cleaver meant a free objective. And it's been a sea of free objectives. Just watch Zatai. Has a lot of rage. The combo comes in, and the flash auto onto 3 members was massive. The damage was massive, and Kid's free hitting, so you know things are going well for IG.
Yeah, good initiation there by Zatai. Not a whole lot of cleanup required after that from Kid, and maybe you heard us. We talked about it. He's not that big of a carry player, but looking just fine so far at 3-0-1, and to be fair, playing cleanup duty quite nicely.
I guess the question mark for me is here, is the bottom lane. Do we crib notes from Kid's great play, or did Conan and Mystic misplay this lane? Because there should be no scenario where Kid is massively ahead of Mystic in terms of gold, but in this game, it's going to be considerable, despite the fact that Sivir should have had basically wave control at her beckon's command between Q and W.
And not to mention that the other lanes are not going well either. Let's ignore the top lane for now. We already know how poorly that's gone so far. Even the mid lane Rookie just consistently staying ahead here. Xie has done an admirable job of keeping up where he can, but he's never been allowed to breathe in that lane. He's been smothered by Orianna here for Rookie. He's now got his Athenes. He's building in towards the Void stuff with an Amp Tome, and he's got his Rabadon's Death Cap up already. Sometimes Orianna's fall behind, but I love Rookie's adaptation. No Ludens this time, just going straight for the Rabadons.
I mean, we can talk about Xie. He's played well. He's done this matchup fine. Again, the problem comes much earlier. Why in pick and ban phase are they picking a losing top lane matchup and at best a competitive mid lane matchup with no CCs? It's not what we expect from Jia. Of course, he was best on the champions like LeBlanc and Ari. If you had a pick champion mid, suddenly Sejuani and an Ari, you got a lot of kill pressure. When it's Sejuani and a Vladimir, not so much. And that's why Spirit has also been losing out from these picks, because they're picking low-pressure laners. Spirit's getting invaded. Everything's falling down from World Elite, and even their true jungle carry can't do anything about it.
Yeah, not on Sejuani. Just a little too much here to ask without a bit more high pressure coming through. And that Baroned up cannon minion doing some work here with 4 members in the bottom for IG. The tie in the top, he will melt through these turrets with a surprising amount of AD.
What's Hecarim going to do, though?
Run away, which is what we've seen for the last 10 minutes here. First turret falls down, second should fall there in the top side. In fact, Zatai's almost done it here with the Luca. Charges into Zatai, might just ignore him for the inhibitor. In fact, that's exactly what he does.
I mean, he might even go for the kill. He's below half health, but has so much kill pressure on a Luca. Watch these auto attacks, just silly.
Yeah, damage is quite silly. Magana does get the wallop for a stun, but Mystic, Conan, and Spirit are all joining in as well. But Zatai backs away safely. Doesn't even need his flash, which he doesn't have so far. And IG rotate back in for another tier 2 in mid lane now.
Look, if you're going to send multiple members, even with... Oh my
that
God!
shockwave was so sick. Rookie gets the kill again onto Mystic. Kid cleans out Sejuani. Aluka's put it in, but it's far too late. Kikau gets the knock up onto Aluka. Damage going to come through as Orianna going to get that next kill. And Invictus Gaming knows that it required this time. Rookie pinpoint accuracy with the ulti.
Well, you don't have to play around a Gnar bar if Gnar doesn't even have to show up in a 4v5 and the surrender comes through. Definitely necessary as IG completely smashed World Elite in the first game of the season.
Yeah, you can see the game collapses there at the end with that surrender coming through for World Elite. And
it was a metaphor.
It was for that series. I think Smash is the right term there. I mean, we've talked about the record. IG slowly creeping back to even now. Lifetime, I believe, 35 to 47 now is the overall record.
45 to 35 is the overall record. The big issue here for World Elite is picks and bans. They were awful this game. First game, picking all the hyper carries didn't work. Slightly improving in picks and bans, but then going on the Sejuani, who was just exposed. After that first gang failed, everything working for Rek'Sai, and you can see the bows coming through in the studio because IG, they've done their fans proud.
And most importantly, a 2-0 here, that's 3 points to start your season. You could not ask for a better start. We talked about it. Long season, lots of games. With those points, they add up, and IG start with the best possible result.
They're going to hope it's not the 6-0 into 0-6 that we saw last split. But yes, an excellent start to the season. 3 points are always at a premium. These teams are getting closer, not further away, at least if we judge by the end of the regular split of the spring split. But at the start of this split, no comparisons between IG and WE. Their drafting and play was exemplary with IG's, and WE, they set themselves up to fail with some really poor drafting.
I mean, Rookie's insane ultimates in 2 different games aside. I agree with you. World Elite just never gave themselves enough opportunities to get themselves into a game. Spirit can carry. We've seen Mystic take over games. Aluka's solid. Even Shia's had his carry performances as well. World Elite don't have to play this way, and it might just be an experience thing for the roster, building up the champ pools, building up the synergy, but just scattered in that game, which is not what we saw from the end of their season last.
And look, Mystic made 2 game-winning plays. But in general, he's made big plays, so Rookie's made big plays, sorry, in every series he's played. It's usually on balance. It's usually he does a great thing here, but a lot of other things have happened in the game. Unfortunately, World Elite could never make anything else happen. So when those heroics come through, they just lose off.
Yeah, and a great strong start from IT. Gives himself 2-0 against World Elite and the first 3 points of their LPL summer season. But don't go too far away. When we return, unlimited potential, the newcomers will be taking on our second place finisher, Snake.